Good day, Deep and Word family. Welcome to day 139 of our Bible study review. Today we're going through chapters 10 through 12 of the book of Jeremiah. Chapter 10 is about the true way of worshiping the one true El. And so Yahweh is telling Jeremiah to speak these words to the whole house of Israel, saying this: do not learn the ways of the nations. Do not be terrified at the signs of heaven, although the nations are terrified at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For with the axe one cuts a tree out of the forest. The work of the hands of the workmen. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and hammers so that it might not move. They are like a scarecrow in a cucumber field. He says they do not speak and they have to be carried. He's like, what type of gods are these that the workman has to cut down the trees and then lay it with silver and gold, and then they bow down to the works of their hands? He's saying these things don't even speak. You have to pick them up and you have to carry them. What type of God is that, right? He's saying this is not my way. Don't worship me. Don't learn the way of the nations. The nations serve false deities and they set up false images. And he's telling Israel, do not do this. And then it looks like there's a shift that Jeremiah is giving credit to the one true Elohim. It says, there is no one like you, O Yahweh. You are great and your name is great in might. Who would not fear you, O King of the nations? Indeed, it is your due. From among all the wise men of the nations and in all of their kingdoms, there is no one like you. And then it seems like it goes back, right? In verse 8, it says, but they, right, all of the nations, and it seems like he's talking about Judah as well. But they are altogether unthinking and foolish. The tree is a doctrine of vanities. So he's saying essentially the work of your own hands is not something that you would bow down and worship. And our Elohim says the same. He doesn't worship the work of his hands, right? The work of his hands are called to worship him, the one true El. And then Yahweh instructs Jeremiah to go on telling Judah, right, that the gods that have not made the heavens and the earth, and these are not really gods, these are false principalities, right? And he says, but they will also perish from underneath the heavens. And the revelation we all need to have about that is that the heavens and all of earth will pass by fire so that none of the enemies camp, right? There'll be no trace left of him when we walk into eternity, the 8th day when New Jerusalem comes down, right? So this is what he is declaring to Judah, right? Worship the one true El. Worship the everlasting El, because everything else is going to pass by fire. Nothing else is going to be able to stand before him. He's not sharing his glory with anyone. But Judah, as Jeremiah is prophesying to them, Judah is not listening. So Yahweh declares that he is going to sling out the inhabitants of the land. And then we see right here in verse 19, there is this great woe for Jerusalem. And it says, woe is me because of my brokenness. My wound is grievous, but I said, truly this is an illness and I must bear it. I believe this is like the land talking. Poetically, this is the land talking. And it says, my tabernacle is devastated and all of my cords are broken. So if you remember the children of Israel, when they were in the wilderness, right? And there was the tabernacle, which was set up with cords and curtains, and they had to set it up. And then when they set it up and they sanctified everything, right? It says that the presence of Yahweh dwelt among them. But it says right here, my sons have gone from me and are no more. There is no one to spread my tent anymore and no one to set up my curtains. Verse 21, for the shepherds have become unthinking, or another word for that is stupid, and have not sought Yahweh. Therefore they have not prospered and all of their flocks are scattered, right? The flocks are the people, okay? And it says, listen, the sound of the report has come in a great commotion out of the north country to make the cities of Judah desolate as a den of jackals. This is going to be Babylon. And the end of chapter 10 is a prayer from Jeremiah to Yahweh. And this is what he says. He says, oh Yahweh, I know the way of man is not in himself. It is not in man who walks to direct his steps. O Yahweh, correct me, but with justice, not in your anger, lest you bring me to nothing. Pour out your fury upon the nations that do not know you, and upon the families that do not call on your name. For they have eaten up Jacob and devoured him and consumed him, and have made his habitation desolate, right? So Jeremiah, he's crying out. He's crying out. He doesn't want to see his people swallowed up. But we know previously that Yahweh says, do not send up a prayer for these people. They are too far gone. He goes, nope, I am going to chastise my sons, right? My sons and my daughters. They will go into exile. Chapter 11 is about the broken covenant. And so we see that the word of Yahweh comes to Jeremiah and he says, hear the words of this covenant and then speak it to the men of Judah and all of the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And it says, and you shall say to them, thus says Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, cursed is the man who does not obey the words of this covenant, which I commanded your fathers in the day that I brought them out from the land of Egypt, from the iron furnace, saying, obey my voice and do according to all which I command you. So you shall be my people and I will be your God, that I may perform the oath which I have sworn to your fathers, to give them a land flowing with milk and honey, as it is to this day. Then I answered. So this is Jeremiah saying, then I answered, so be it, O Yahweh. So then Jeremiah goes and he speaks these words to all of Judah, all of the inhabitants. And he says, look, I warned your forefathers of this very thing, right? And these are the words of Yahweh through the prophet Jeremiah. Look, I warned them that if they kept my covenant commands, then they would have blessing, right? Covenant day is filled with blessings for keeping the covenant and curses for breaking the covenant. And he says, therefore, since your forefathers didn't listen, since you aren't listening, I am going to bring all of the curses, right, that are found in Deuteronomy 28. He says, I'm going to bring these curses upon you because time after time after time, you have broken my covenant and you would not return back to me. And then Yahweh tells Jeremiah again, right? After all of this, after he tells them to proclaim these words to Judah, then he reminds Jeremiah again what not to do. And here it is in verse 14. Therefore, do not pray for this people, nor lift up a cry or prayer for them, for I will not hear them in the time that they cry to me because of their trouble. This must really hurt Jeremiah, right? And if it was you and I, right? And we're praying, we're interceding for our family members, right? And just imagine Yahweh telling us, do not pray for them anymore, right? Because there is going to be a final time where he's like, no more, no more. My son is coming. The time is up. No more praying for these people. I've given them every chance. I have exhausted every possibility. Now it is time for judgment, right? This is probably how we feel, right? As we're screaming from the rooftops, look, you need Messiah. You need Yeshua. You cannot face the Father's wrath, right? You must come under the blood. Then Yahweh goes on, and I can hear his heart breaking right here in this passage. He says, what right has my beloved in my house, seeing that she has done many lawless deeds? Can the sacrificial meat take away from your disaster so that you can rejoice while doing evil, right? This is the equivalent of those who claim Messiah, right? And partake of the Passover meal, right? Partake of the wine and partake of the bread, which the blood is the blood of the covenant and the bread represents his body. Can we partake of that meal, which represents the covenant that he is making with us? Can we partake of that, but then purposely go out and sin, right? Go play with the world and rejoice in our sin and say that we are safe, that we're still in his house? Absolutely not. We need some covenant words in the back of the book to back up the same words that the Father has spoken in the beginning, right here. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 26. For if we willfully continue to sin after we have received the knowledge of truth, there no longer remains a sacrifice for sins, but a fearful expectation of judgment. All right. And it says that those who despised Moses's law died without mercy in the presence of 2 or 3 witnesses. How much more severe a punishment do you suppose he deserves, who has trampled underfoot the Son of Elohim and has regarded the blood of the covenant that sanctified him to be a common thing and has insulted the Spirit of grace? How much more severe a punishment for those who trample the blood of our Messiah and treat it as common. This is the same word that he is speaking. He goes, can the blood of the sacrifice cover you when you willfully go out and sin against me? He goes, no. Now let's go back to Jeremiah chapter 11, back to verse 16. It says, Yahweh called your name a green olive tree, right? Green olive tree, that's Israel, all of Israel. And it says, fair in fruit and form. With the noise of a great tumult, he has kindled fire upon it, and its branches are broken, right? Many branches are broken off because of unbelief and because of their hardness of heart. Now, if you need a connector, right? In the back of the book, that's going to be Romans chapter 11, verses 17 through 22. I'm just going to go there and read it for you. All right, let's read it. But if some of the branches were broken off, and you being a wild olive shoot were grafted in among them and became a partaker with them of the root and the richness of the olive tree, do not boast against the branches. If you boast, remember, you do not sustain the root, but the root sustains you. You will say then, the branches were broken off so that I might be grafted in. This is correct. They were broken off because of unbelief, but you stand by faith, just like your father Abraham, right? And it says, do not be arrogant, but fear. For if Elohim did not spare the natural branches, neither will he spare you. Therefore, consider the goodness and the severity of Elohim, severity towards those who fell, but goodness towards you. If you continue in his goodness, there's the conditional speech. If you continue walking faithfully, he says, otherwise, you will also be cut off. And then it goes on to say that Yahweh, the one who planted this beautiful olive tree, he is going to pluck out the branches, the unbelieving branches, because of the unfaithfulness of the entire house, right? The house of Israel and the house of Judah. Verse 18, Yahweh has made it known to me, and I knew it. Then you showed me their deeds. So Jeremiah is talking to Yahweh, and he's saying, you showed me the deeds of Judah, right? And this is what they were planning against him. It says, but I was like a gentle lamb that is brought to the slaughter, and I did not know that they had devised plots against me. And so we know that Yahweh told Jeremiah in the very beginning of his ministry, he says, look, they will plot and plan against you, but they will not prevail because I will be your fortress. They will not penetrate and get to you. And this is what they said concerning Jeremiah. It says, let us destroy the tree with the fruit. Let us cut him off from the land of the living, so that his name may be remembered no more. Now, this is what they spoke about Jeremiah, but this is also what unbelieving Israel spoke concerning the Messiah. And here is the conclusion. This is what Yahweh has to say upon the matter of Israel plotting against, right, his servant. Jeremiah is a servant. He's a prophet. He's speaking the words of Yahweh to the people. So he says, therefore, thus says Yahweh of the men of Anathoth who seek your life, saying, do not prophesy in the name of Yahweh, so that you do not die by our hand. Therefore, thus says Yahweh Sabaoth, I will punish them. The young men shall die by the sword. Their sons and their daughters shall die by famine, and there shall be no remnant of them. For I will bring calamity upon the men of Anathoth, even the year of their punishment. And now we open up chapter 12 and we see that Jeremiah is pleading to Yahweh. He says, righteous are you, O Yahweh, that I plead with you. Indeed, let me talk with you about the matters of justice. Why does the way of the wicked prosper? So now Jeremiah is questioning him, right? Why are all those happy who deal very treacherously? You have planted them indeed. They have taken root. They grow indeed. They bring forth fruit. You are near in their mouth, but far from their minds. And then Jeremiah continues to plead with Yahweh. He says, but you, O Yahweh, you know me. You know my heart. You know that my heart is to serve you. I'm speaking your will. I'm speaking your words. And he says, therefore, prepare the sheep for slaughter. Prepare the wicked ones for the slaughter, right? And he says, how long will the land have to suffer at their hands, right? And then Yahweh tells him, he says, look, everyone in your house, right? Your brothers, everyone in your father's house has dealt treacherously with you. He goes, they may speak fair words to you, but do not believe them. They are against you. Verse 7, this is Yahweh. He says, I have forsaken my house. I have abandoned my heritage. I have given the dearly beloved of my soul into the hand of her enemies. And he tells him why. He says, look, the shepherds have destroyed my vineyard, right? The vineyard is the people, and the shepherds are supposed to be the ones who are leading them in the ways of righteousness. But we know that that hasn't happened because he says the shepherds have become stupid. And those who are supposed to know my law do not know my law. They're not teaching my ways. They're teaching the ways of Baal. And then Yahweh continues to answer Jeremiah concerning his own nation, right? The nation of Israel, but he's also talking about the other nations, the ones who he is using to chastise his inheritance, right? And so this is what he says back to Jeremiah. Against all of my evil neighbors who touch the inheritance which I have caused my people Israel to inherit, I will pluck them out of their land and pluck out the house of Judah from among them. So he's saying, look, I'm going to bring Judah back, to their rightful inheritance, which is going to be Jerusalem. After the Babylonian exile, Judah comes back. That is the story, okay? And he says, it shall come to pass that after I have plucked them out, I will again have compassion on them and will bring them back, every man to his heritage and every man to his land. It shall come to pass, if they will diligently learn the ways of my people to swear by my name. So now he's talking about the other surrounding nations. He says, if they call upon my name, the one true El, Yahweh, and not upon the name of Baal, he says, look, they will be built up in the midst of my people. Right? It says, but if they will not obey, I will utterly pluck up and destroy that nation, says Yahweh. So if the surrounding nations who are near his nation of Israel, if they hearken to the voice and they worship the one true El, he says they will be safe, right? They will have a place amongst his own people. But he says, look, if they do not hearken to my voice, if they will not obey me, he goes, I will pluck them out and I will utterly destroy them. So he's assuring Jeremiah that he is no respecter of persons, right? They all must obey his commands. And this to me looks like a foreshadow of the millennial reign as well, because we know there's going to be the nation of Israel, right? And all other nations who come up, they have to bring tribute. And if they do not worship the one true El, right? If they don't come up at the Feast of Tabernacles, they will be destroyed. They will be destroyed by famine, right? So we see these pictures of the old. They also point to the future as well, because that's what the word of Yahweh does. Because right before our Messiah comes to set up the millennial reign, it says that all of the scattered tribes will be gathered from the four corners and they will inherit their proper inheritance, right? And so this just looks like a picture that it's pointing to the future as well, although it's dealing with that moment in time of Judah's apostasy. Deep in Word family, that's all that I have for you today. Until tomorrow, Yah bless.